Tomb Raider: The Last Revelation on PS4 is a really long game that happens to have a bunch of really annoying PlayStation trophies that will really make you groan. Like the Bury It With Me trophy that requires you to find all 560 odd pickups throughout the entire game. Then there's that trophy for getting the bull to hit the 3 pillars within a certain amount of time, yet he just doesn't want to run into them. Or that annoying one where you have to blow up all the turrets. Or that This Is Fine trophy, which requires you to get to the end of a level while still on fire, which just burns through, no pun intended there, all of your health packs and just wastes a load on that. The Ghost Rider trophy is a frustrating one, as that required you to get over a gap on the motorbike without upgrading it, and that was just really awkward to do. Then you got this annoying one that requires you to defeat these bosses without ever taking damage, and then there's this tedious one that requires you to go back to this guy multiple times in order to get some clues from him to unlock the Inspector Wadget trophy. However, those are nothing compared to the ones I'm going to talk about today, as here are even more BS Tomb Raider 4 trophies. The Deadshot Silver trophy requires you to decapitate a skeleton as he jumps in the air, and this one was a right pain to do because it's just really awkward to try and line up a shot. Even if you're using the laser sight on the crossbow, it's still a pain to try and aim and shoot it, because sometimes you'll fire when the red dot is right on the head and you'll just completely miss. It'll just go through and not register it at all. So this one just definitely took me a long time to do and was really frustrating. The bronze trophy Theomachist requires you to perform a handstand in front of a bunch of statues in the game, and I found this one to be a bit of a pain because it's a playthrough long trophy, though it does carry over into subsequent playthroughs if you do happen to miss one, so that at least is good. However, my gripes with this trophy is that the statues are all different, and there's even more statues than the 8 that you're required to find in the game and perform a headstand in front of, so it's hard to really know which ones you should be doing it on without using a guide, and some of them you can't actually do it right in front of them. You do it at the other end of a corridor on the only bit that you can do a handstand on, so it's kind of hard to know if they've even registered, especially if you're playing on the PS4. And there's one in particular where you're hanging off the edge of this ladder that I just couldn't perform a headstand because you would just pull up to climb up every time I tried to do it, and that one was just really finicky. And yeah, 8 throughout a whole game that has 35 levels and they're not all the same statues, so they're not all the same one that you have to look out for, just makes this one really just tedious and annoying, especially if you end up missing one. When I attempted to unlock this silver trophy, I felt that it was impossible at the time because I just couldn't figure out how to get past these steam pipes without taking any damage, because whenever I crawled past the first one, I wasn't quick enough to get past the second one without the steam coming back on and hurting Lara, so I figured you had to stay in between them and wait for the steams to stop on the second pipe so you could get past safely, but there just wasn't enough room to stay in the middle of them both without getting damaged by one or the other, so I was just stumped at this one and couldn't figure out how you got past it. Honestly, I was here for ages just trying to wiggle and nudge Lara into what I thought was an exact spot that you had to be in order to safely sit in between the 2 pipes as the steam was on, and then just quickly shuffle away to get out of the way before they came back on. And eventually I realised that I was just doing this one all wrong, because I forgot that Lara has a roll move when she's crawling, so that's what you have to do here in order to get past these steam pipes quickly and not get damaged. So this one is actually an easy trophy to get, but my experience with it was a frustrating one because I didn't realise how I was supposed to do it. If you thought the Deadshot trophy was frustrating, then the Cooler Than Henry trophy is really going to pee you off, because this one was just an absolute nightmare to try and get working right, because it requires you to blind the 3 red assassins, then poison them, and then one-shot them in a row using one of Lara's pistols, and that's a key thing there. You can only use one of the pistols, so you have to do this awkward look away to just be firing at them with one of the pistols, because if you hit them with both, you'll void the trophy. But the pistol part wasn't really what I struggled with the most, to be honest, because I could always aim with one pistol, but it was the fact that they wouldn't die when I was shooting them, or rather, two of them would die with the first bullet, but the third one would just refuse to die. Or when I'm trying to poison them, I would try and hit one of them, but because they're all grouped together, I'd end up shooting another one twice, and because I've hit them twice with the poison dart, they would just die, so I'd void that attempt. The grenade part where you blind them is easy because you just fire a flash grenade, and you're better off firing one of those than trying to poison them, and then fire another flash grenade at them again to stop them all from moving around, so you can then line up the shots with your pistol and hope that they all die in pretty much one shot of the pistol. But that probably won't happen, and you'll just do this over and over again, not really knowing where you're going wrong. It's just a very finicky trophy. I tried shooting the guards in the head with the poison darts, in the chest, and even in the leg, but it didn't really seem to make much difference. I felt like the poison effect would wear off by the time I got the pistols out, which is why they weren't dying with one shot. But eventually I managed to bunch them up in a row over here, and after making good use of the save system, I was able to just slowly progress and figure out how many bullets and shots each one would take before they died, and eventually, after blinding them for a second time, I pulled out the pistols, lined up the one-hit shots, and eventually popped the Cooler Than Henry trophy. But what an absolute pain in the arse that one was. The Ups trophy is one of those tedious playthrough long trophies that you have to work on all the way through the game, and the trophy isn't actually available in all of the levels because you have to destroy every single vessel in a single playthrough. But there aren't these vessels, which are basically just destructible objects like crates and vases that you can shoot to reveal oftentimes items that you can pick up in every level. So you're just left wondering, have you missed any? So it's one that you'll have to definitely use a guide so you know exactly how many there are, how many you should have between each level, and how many levels actually have some in for you to hunt down and shoot. But one of my other problems with this trophy was that the vessels are all the same, so you're not just always looking for the same grey vase or the same like wooden chest. They kind of mix them up as you go through the game. You'll see like chests, but different types of chests, like things that almost look like benches. But you'll also come across other vase types that sometimes they'll smash and other ones won't, like these giant ones here just don't break at all, but you will find some big ones in other levels that do smash. So it's kind of inconsistent and a bit annoying that they put all of these other items in the levels that you can't actually break, and it just makes this trophy more harder than it needed to be, because trying to do this without a guide would be really, really tough, because you just wouldn't know what you're missing, because the stats at the end of the level, they don't tell you how many are in each level. It's just your running total and how many there are altogether. So it just makes trying to collect these naturally just really awkward. And as fun as breaking pots with guns is, this just wasn't a fun trophy to always have on the back of my mind as I play through each level, because there's just so many to collect and just, well, destroy rather, that it just makes it really tedious. You'll either end up having to get 169 or 170 depending on the route you go through the game, so there's a lot to make sure you've got, and yeah, it just wasn't a very fun one. The Circuit Saved trophy was the last one I needed in order to unlock the Platinum trophy, and I ended up missing it in my first run because you can't actually get this trophy, which requires you to keep all of the soldiers alive during the Giza chapter, because you need one of them to die in order to pick up a collectible item off them for the pickups trophy. So you have to do it in another playthrough. But my second playthrough was New Game Plus, and I found that the enemies were just way too strong in that game, so I couldn't kill the giant scorpions quick enough before the soldiers were killed, so it also voided it in that playthrough as well. Now luckily I remembered to make a save at the start of the very first level of this area where you can get the trophy. I'm not even going to say it, but it begins with an M and it's his pyramid, okay? So I was at least able to reload my normal playthrough and start from there to try and get this trophy, but it's just a really tedious one because it spans 2 levels where you fight these scorpion enemies and you have the soldiers there, but you have to complete another handful of levels in between those 2 before you can finish up this trophy. So what you need to do with this one is make sure you've got the revolver and the scope and just use that to kill the scorpions really quickly, because if you just try and run around and just normally shoot with Lara's auto aim, she might end up aiming at the soldiers, and if you accidentally kill one of them, you'll void the trophy. So it's definitely one to do with a load of backup saves if you can. It's honestly not a hard trophy to do. You've got plenty of time if you're playing it on normal difficulty to kill these scorpions, but yeah, I don't think you can actually do it on New Game Plus because they just die way too quickly, the soldiers, because you can't kill the scorpions fast enough, because I think within the latest patch of the game, they made all the enemies take more bullets, so you just won't be quick enough to save like this guy here in time. So yeah, this one was a really annoying one, and it definitely has a whiff of BS about it. So there you go, there was some even more BS Tomb Raider The Last Revelation trophies, and for my money, the Cooler Than Henry one was the worst of this bunch, because this one was just really awkward to get. Have you managed to get the Platinum in Tomb Raider Last Revelation? Let me know in the comments below what you thought were the most BS trophies in this game. And if you haven't platinumed it, what the hell are you waiting for? This game and this collection is great.